It's week 2. Evan Engram's good to go for the Broncos. Dre Greenlaw is not, as expected. And it's a fascinating game, maybe a bigger game than you might expect for a September non-divisional game. I'll dive into it on this game preview edition of Denver Football After Dark. Crack one open here in the wee small hours of the morning. Denver Football After Dark on this Friday night into Saturday morning. Broncos head off to Indianapolis for one of the more intriguing games of week 2. A game that is noteworthy because the last time these two clubs met, it ended up being a game that, for all intents and purposes, determined the last wild card spot in the AFC in the 2024 postseason. Had the Colts won, it would have been Indianapolis returning to the playoffs. Of course, the Broncos got the win. A great defensive performance, especially in the second half. Wasn't great for the first about 2/3 of the game. And then Jonathan Taylor dropped the ball as he was heading into the end zone, and everything changed. A key moment for both teams. The Broncos capitalized. They say luck is where preparation meets opportunity. And the Broncos certainly did that. Hit the music to turn it off a little too soon there. The Broncos were lucky, but again, preparation meeting opportunity last year. So they may not get that good fortune this time. They may have to make a little of it, but this Broncos team, you'd like to think, is better. It's better on the defensive side, and that's kind of where you start. They ought to be able to hold Jonathan Taylor in check in a way that they couldn't last year. Now, this is a Colts team that appears to be better on offense, better quarterback. Daniel Jones, they're calling him Indiana Jones. As long as he plays mistake-free football, he is objectively better than Anthony Richardson. That being said, he isn't spectacular. He doesn't appear to be a long-term solution for the Colts, as Indianapolis seems to float from one solution to another, trying to stopgap quarterback around a roster that remains pretty talented across the board, except for the big quarterback quandary. But Jones is better than what they had last year with Richardson coming into Denver. Tyler Warren, a player the Broncos had some interest in through the pre-draft process, a player the Broncos liked in the pre-draft process. The Colts, to their credit, are moving him around, making the most of his multidimensional skill set. And that was something that Vance Joseph mentioned when he talked about him on Thursday.
Well, we watched him in college, actually, on staff, and he's a special player. I mean, the size, the ball skills. He's got some. I told Sean this. He's got some Taysom Hill in him, right? He can run the football. I mean, he's thrown the football in college. He's a receiver. He's an inline tight end blocker. I mean, he's all around good player. You saw it last week. Obviously in the first 2 or 3 drives. I mean, the plays are being designed for him to make them, and he's making them. So having a plan for that player is going to be critical.
Yeah, it is going to be critical. And one thing we do know, if there has been a soft spot for Vance Joseph's defenses, even the ones that have been pretty good, it has been covering tight ends. And he had a solid defense for the Broncos in 2018. Vance Joseph as head coach, Joe Woods defensive coordinator. But I don't think many of us have forgotten George Kittle going off against said defense late in the season in a game that nudged the Broncos to a 6-10 finish. Remember, that team was 6-6 and looked to be getting back into it, and then lost the final 4 games, and that led to the dismissal of Vance Joseph. But I mean, there was a moment there where the Broncos had gotten back to 500, and it looked like there was a chance that they could save Vance Joseph's job for the 2019 season with a strong end. And then losing to San Francisco, losing to Cleveland, losing to the Raiders, and then Chargers at home. I mean, shoot, of those games, only the Chargers had a winning record of those teams. That was a very winnable stretch for the Broncos to have potentially saved VJ's head coaching job back then, and that's a fascinating what if. But they didn't, and it started with struggling to cover tight ends. And even Arizona observers will tell you, in his years as defensive coordinator there, covering tight ends was a problem. And of course, they saw it against George Kittle there in the NFC West with the Cardinals facing the 49ers twice a year. The thing about Tyler Warren as well is the Broncos certainly know him from scouting him, but they have basically one game of film with him in Indianapolis. So this is an interesting question. Have the Colts shown their entire hand with Tyler Warren, or have they only begun to peel back the layers on what he can do? And as they uncork Tyler Warren, if you pay too much attention to him, what does that open up elsewhere? Does it, if you put too much on him, if you bracket him, does that open things up for Michael Pittman Jr. on the outside? Now, this is where the Broncos are in good shape, because you can get creative with Tyler Warren, and you ought to still be in good shape to take care of Pittman because of what you have at cornerback. Maybe you want to get a real creative. Maybe you want to try PS2 on Warren. You want to do the big corner on tight end matchup, the way, go back in the Wayback Machine. I mentioned this, I get into this on Orange and Blue today. You'll be able to watch that Saturday morning. The way Sean Payton experienced on the negative side when he was in New Orleans, when Aqib Talib went against Jimmy Graham 12 years ago and shut him down, if you want to do that. And then you'd have Riley Moss going against Michael Pittman. Well, Moss put on some weight to be able to go against bigger receivers like Michael Pittman Jr. So you presume he'd be able to hold up better than he could before. Moss had a good game last week. Point being, the Colts do present some challenges, but even without Dre Greenlaw, who did practice on a limited basis on Friday, that's good news. So that's a step in the right direction, even though he won't play on Sunday. Even without Dre Greenlaw, the Broncos should have enough personnel-wise to be able to answer the questions that the Colts are going to pose. They struggled to answer them last year before they had Tyler Warren. But remember, that was a Broncos defense that didn't have Alex Singleton, that didn't have Riley Moss, didn't have Talanoa Hufanga, as they do now. So those are 3 huge additions that I think are transformative in this matchup. The Colts caused problems for the Broncos for about 2/3 of that game. Had the Broncos on the run, were grinding them down, starting with Jonathan Taylor. Now I think the Broncos are better equipped to counter that, even though the Colts bring you more with an accurate quarterback and a pretty dynamic tight end. I know Colston Loveland did end up going first off the board. Tyler Warren was my tight end one. Just like I didn't waver, and I haven't wavered in my 11 and 6 pick. I didn't waver, and I never wavered on my tight end one. It was still going to be Tyler Warren, partially because, like Vance Joseph mentioned, he can go in line better. Colston Loveland, I'm not sure about him in line. I'm very certain about Tyler Warren being able to give you that in-line option. And I think that was another reason why he intrigued the Broncos. And if the Broncos had not gotten Evan Engram and had gone into the draft with the tight end still as a must-have, it would have been fascinating to see how they would have reacted to the draft board being the way it was, and might they have been more aggressive to look into moving up for Tyler Warren if tight end had still been in that must-have. That's really fascinating. A victory lap. Don't worry about the push-ups. It's all good. I didn't expect I would do this live. The schedule got out of control. I got, my daughter pulled me into a very competitive Uno game tonight, and that put me off schedule a little bit. So that took up a little more of my evening than I expected. Between that and watching CU struggle against Houston, and by the way, terrible answer by Deion Sanders about struggling in night games. I mean, how can you be a guy nicknamed Prime Time and your team struggles in prime time? Anyway, so I thought I taped tonight. I thought I was going to as well, and this will probably not be a full hour and a half show as I go hit the road for Indianapolis in not too long. But I wanted to be here. It is, unexpectedly live. I do have some questions that were dropped into into the comment section that I'm going to get to here on the show. So I did call an audible to do a live show tonight for this. It just sort of worked out that way. And I love checking in from Australia, home of Jeremy Crawshaw. Outstanding game. Certainly the type of game that would have been worthy of a game ball. So, has it seemed like to y'all people on Twitter there's been way too overreacting, not by the Broncos? This year seems worse. That's interesting, Crumble. And I'll let y'all debate that in the live chat, because I think it's that way on radio as well. I'll say this. I don't listen to a lot of radio. I just get that from Cecil, because sometimes I'll ask him what is coming in on the text line during his show. And shout out to him. He's got the top rated show in his time slot in the Denver market right now, him and Josh Dover. So he and Josh are killing it there in the midday. So he's the one who will tell me, yes, I'm getting texts calling for Jarrett Stidham to go in after week 1. So it's not just social media. It's in traditional media as well, people chiming in. And the radio audience would definitely probably be more of a older audience, more of a traditional media consuming audience. And it would also tell you that, okay, maybe people might have reacted this way. They just have a few more outlets. But I do also think people are a little less patient than they used to be. Yes. Someone asking, what about bring Mike McDaniel if he's fired to maximize what they have while Bo is on a rookie deal? Javier, I do believe that if Mike McDaniel is dismissed by the 49ers, I think it may be a Robert Saleh type situation. He ends up going back to the San Francisco 49ers staff. So that's not something I would anticipate, although it is interesting to think about, especially if the Broncos do get into a situation where they lose Davis Webb this offseason. And I think that's something that I would say has a pretty good chance of happening, because I think, and especially if Bo Nix has a good season, and yeah, okay, he had a rough game in week 1, but if Bo has the type of season I think most people still expect him to have, Davis Webb will probably get a shot to call plays somewhere next year. And he should probably take that. Payton gave him the play calling chance in the preseason, which is sort of that's the first step. That's the sign. He's bringing him along. He's getting him ready for that chance. And Payton's not going to stand in his way of that kind of opportunity. That has never been his style, to block coaches from advancing their careers. It's one of the really good things about him as a coach, that he puts himself in their shoes, because he was once in their shoes, that young assistant looking to move up the ranks. And I asked him about this earlier, back in the off season. If you create an atmosphere and an environment where coaches can succeed and advance through the ranks, you're going to be able to attract the best coaching talent that is the next generation and on its way up. So if you lose Davis Webb, you're probably going to be able to find somebody who can be the next Davis Webb. And you're going to have a good chance of that because of what you've been able to develop. I mean, you look at, Declan Doyle very quickly moving on to Chicago, not a play calling OC, but getting that chance probably faster than a lot of people thought he would. And it's because of the esteem that the teaching and the development of coaches, that the esteem in which that's held around of what's going on with the Broncos. So I'd say, yeah, they could look into a McDaniel if they move on from Davis Webb, but I also think they would definitely be looking at finding the next Davis Webb. Maybe it's another player going into retirement. Maybe it's somebody from the college ranks as well. One thing also from the college ranks, and I bring that up because something you do see now with the transfer portal coming into play is, with the rosters turning over so much in college football, you do have a fair amount of coaches at that level, probably more than ever before, who would like to get to the NFL because you get a more pure coaching experience now in the NFL, not having to change things so often. If you draft a player, you kind of know you're going to get 4 years. You draft a player, you can make a 4-year plan. And if you have to cut him, so be it. But if that player succeeds and takes the steps along the way, you can make a 4-year development plan and have a good idea they're going to be there for 4 years. Whereas in college football, if that player succeeds the first year, you might look around and say, they're gone. Someone else offered them more money. I mean, you could have that player, you could be coaching at, Wake Forest or North Carolina State, and he did great, but sorry, no, Clemson offered him more money, he's gone, right? And then what do you do? So that is something to keep in mind. Probably a very long answer to a very short question. So Ashton, no, I don't see that happening. I don't see that happening. So, Ashton, I like you said, extremely hypothetical. So, anyway, I don't see Davis Webb stepping in and calling plays. I know that's coming up in the chat. I don't see that happening. Again, it's only been one game. Let's just kind of see how things go. I think it would have to get very, very, very bad for this offense. I think they would have to press an awful lot of buttons, and things would have to get into particularly dire straits before you saw that button be pushed. So, people bringing up the uniforms, by the way. So the Colts are having a whiteout on Sunday. They're honoring their Super Bowl 41 winners, and they wore white on white in that Super Bowl. And because of that, they're going to wear their white uniforms, white helmets, white jerseys, white pants. And one of the questions that came in from Caleb Guarino 1263, since Indy is doing a whiteout, should I wear my white Bo Nix current uniform template or my orange Pat Surtain, the old template? Well, ordinarily I would say go with the current template because that's the uniform of right now, but at least you have a player that's current. I mean, Pat Surtain is the reigning DPOY. And I think Surtain is starting to reach a point in Broncos history where his jersey is never going to go out of style. Furthermore, do you want to blend in or do you want to stand out? Because if you wear that white jersey, you'll blend in. So if you don't want to be recognized, if you just want to blend in with the crowd, by all means, wear the white jersey. But if you want to be one of those orange specks, then wear your old template. Now, that being said, their mascot, Blue, has a habit of playfully putting pies in the faces of visiting team fans. As my daughter informs me, she follows the Colts mascot on Instagram and says he's hilarious. So apparently that's a little thing that he does playfully with road team fans. So just be careful out there. She wants me to try to get a picture with him, so that's something I have to go work on at some point on Sunday, to find the Colts mascot and get a selfie somehow. So that's in addition to my various game day tasks. I have to go work on that now. So anyway, another thing that came up in the questions. This one here, two-parter. So this was a long one here. On radio, oh boy, on radio. Whew, a lot of things said on radio. I heard Sean doesn't like to run the football, but in his best offense of his career, had great running games with Reggie Bush, Mark Ingram, Alvin Kamara, Darren Sproles, etc. Was that because the passing game with Brees set up the run? Well, I mean, first of all, you named running backs that, better, more proficient, more accomplished than the ones that he's had here to this point. I mean, I think you start there. Not only you have the quarterback who forces teams to move guys out of the box, forces you to devote more resources to coverage rather than playing the run. You also have those running backs who are better than the ones he's had. I mean, it's a little bit of both. It's rarely is it one thing or the other. Usually it's a combination of all of it. So it's not that he doesn't like to run. I mean, I think that's a myth. And during the weeks, I think he knows he has to run. But I think what happens is when you have the offense stalling, and some of this is, okay, you've got a quarterback who's young and less consistent than Drew Brees was. I mean, Bo Nix has not hit a Brees level of consistency. I think that's understandable. So you try to kind of microwave it a little bit. And then the other thing that happens is when Bo does get into a rhythm, it's almost like he's like, okay, let's keep it going, right? Instead of being like, okay, Bo's in a rhythm, that's good. We know we can come back to it. When you had Drew Brees and when he got to cruising altitude and you knew who and what he was, it was like, like State Farm, like a good neighbor, always there, right? That sort of thing. You knew he was always going to be fine. Whereas Bo Nix, he probably, maybe it's a subconscious thing, but hasn't sort of hit that level where he's always going to be there, and the passing game as a whole is always going to be there when you need it. So it's like if you get the moments where it's flowing, it's like you want to keep it going, keep it going, keep it going. I think all of that sort of comes into play. It's almost like there's a psychology of play calling that kind of works into what's going on. But he's had a lot of terrific running games. Like you mentioned those names, you mentioned those players. So I think the notion that he doesn't like to run that was said on the radio, I think that's kind of bunk, frankly. So it's one of those things that's easy to say, and it's a hot takey thing to say, but I don't think it's really one of those things that actually is reality. So Michael points out Colts missing 2 cornerbacks now. Here's the thing though, in terms of the Colts, they've changed. They've changed their depth chart a little bit. In terms of their cornerbacks. So you've got Jalen Jones ruled out, but he's not a starter anymore. In fact, he didn't play any defensive snaps last week. So Jalen Jones affects their depth, but he's not starting. Charvarius Ward with a concussion, that's something that's really problematic for them in this game. Jalen Jones, if they have another injury, their depth is hit, but he wasn't starting last week. So Charvarius Ward right now, that's the bigger thing. I've seen some things out that they're saying, oh, they're down 2 starters. No, they're not down 2 starters right now. So that's just something to concern. Latu also up front. He's injured, the former first-round pick for the Colts. So you're catching their defense, which is in a state of transition, going to Lou Anarumo's scheme. Had a great game last week against a pretty bad team, but you're catching them a bit shorthanded. Now, you saw that scheme last year, saw it with the Bengals. Bengals had a bad defense last year, and Anarumo's had some terrific defenses with the Bengals. Like in 2021, they almost wanted to build a statue for the guy, and he was getting some head coaching consideration around the league. And then 2024, the defense was terrible. He gets fired. Sometimes as the cliche goes, it's not the X's and O's, it's the Jimmies and Joes. And maybe that's a little lesson in terms of the Sean Payton offenses, right? Like it's not the scheme, and it's not the plays, and sometimes it's the players. So you think Sean's ego won't allow him to do this, let the staff do their jobs in the long term, having him step back and focus on team needs rather than control everything? Well, I think he's always been a play caller. I mean, I don't think it's an ego thing. I think it's just how he's always done it. I mean, you have a lot of coaches, and you have a lot of coaches in this league who are play callers. I mean, most offensive-centric coaches in this league are play callers. Now, I mean, Kyle Shanahan will call plays. Zach Taylor will call plays. You go down the list. That is the job. I mean, we're actually in a point now where there are very few head coaches who don't call plays on either the offense or defense. You'd have to say that that's actually the minority of head coaches. So I would say I don't think it's an ego thing, because if it's an ego thing, then is it an ego thing for Zach Taylor? Is it an ego thing for Mike McDaniel? Is it an ego thing, for Dave Canales? I mean, you just name any head coach. So I think I get what you're saying, Javier, but I don't think that's the deal. Who do they have returning kicks? Well, of course, it's going to be Marvin Mims Jr. as the primary. The question is who's lined up next to him on kickoffs, and that's going to depend on, is it going that we saw RJ Harvey get a shot last week. So, but other than that, there's no reason why it won't be Marvin Mims Jr. even with the muff. That's not going to change. Nate Albert saying Pat Bryant have a bigger impact. I think he will. Only played 4 plays last week. So, Dre Greenlaw, a lot of talk about him. Limited on Friday, which was a step forward for him after not practicing at all the previous 2 days. So Nate Atkins limited for 2 days and still DMP for Sunday. Dre Greenlaw limited on Friday, still DMP for Sunday. Atkins is clearly on the path that I think will allow him to play against the Chargers next week. With Greenlaw, I think we see how much he does next Wednesday. That I think is going to tell us a tale. If he's out there doing a reasonable amount, if we see him doing a lot of individual work, then I think there's a good chance he's going to be ready for that Charger game. And that, as you say, Crumble, he might be back. So, Denver Football After Dark here on this Thursday night, Friday morning. Yeah, I got this thing in on got this thing on it and on Thursday night or Friday night, Saturday morning. Man, my bad. Friday night, Saturday morning. I said Thursday night. So, got a question that came in about George Payton, kind of an interesting one. Do you agree George Payton is the best drafting GM in Broncos history? The only reason why I'm not going to agree with you on that one, Space Explorer, is because there is the 1973 Broncos draft that John Ralston, the head coach and GM, had that included Otis Armstrong, Barney Chavis, and Tom Jackson. And then 1974, you had Randy Gradishar in the first round of that draft. And then 1975, you had Louis Wright in the first round, and you had Rick Upchurch in the 4th round, and you had Reuben Carter in the 5th round, and Steve Foley in the 8th round. So in 75, John Ralston drafted 3 Ring of Famers. So you go through 73, and I didn't even mention his first draft in 72 where he opened with Riley Odoms. So 72, 73, 74, 75, John Ralston gets a Ring of Famer in each draft, and he gets 3 of them in 75, gets Randy Gradishar in 74. So his 76 draft wasn't quite as good, but still he came out of it with Tom Glassick in the first round, who was a starter. So it's still not as good, but a guy who started 8 seasons for the Broncos, including the Super Bowl 12 season. So that's the only reason why I'm going to say the best drafting GM in Broncos history was John Ralston, head coaching GM. So George Payton, he's not there yet. He could be, but he's not there yet. So appreciate the question though, but I had to say nope, sorry, I don't agree with that. I think, I feel bad sometimes if people ask me, like if you ask a comment, like, do you agree? Like, I think you're expecting me to agree. I'm like, no, I don't. I'm sort of a killjoy that way sometimes, but I got to keep it, gonna keep it real. Gonna be honest. The old cliche. The truth is, the truth's gonna hurt sometimes, right? It's not designed to help you, or not designed to help you. It's gonna hurt you sometimes. Finally, this one from Sam Parnell. Doesn't like the orange on orange, going to say that's the lackluster offensive performances because they wore orange on orange last week. Well, I've heard worse explanations for the way the team played against the Tennessee Titans and the orange on orange. So the rumbling is, and Mile High Mario out there on Twitter often puts the uniform things out there, and he's saying orange jerseys, white pants, and white socks. And I hope if they do that, it's the blue socks or the orange socks, preferably the blue socks, because then the blue helmets and the blue socks frame each other nicely. But man, I hope it's not the white pants and white socks. That's just gross. They have got to stop with the unitard look with the white pants, white socks. Teams have got to stop doing this. Or the NFL needs to step in and say, you've actually got to start paying attention to what socks you wear. I know the NFL has decided we don't care about this. Well, you got to start caring about it, because some of these teams look ridiculous when they wear the same color pants and socks. You're not going in for yoga. You're playing football. Look like it. Look like professionals. Anyway. Orange jerseys and blue pants. Crumble. You won't see that because Greg Penner doesn't want to see that. He got it wrong when he described it, but that's what he was referring to. The orange jerseys and blue pants. He's like, nope, don't want to see it. Tried it, didn't like it. So it isn't going to happen. So is Franklin stepping into the wide receiver 2 role? Mims' usage didn't make sense to me. It seems like Franklin, if you go by week 1, if you go by snaps, Troy Franklin certainly did last week. So you'd have to say that alone, yes. The Mims use, I wanted to see more jet sweeps, more end arounds. I wanted to see more of that with him. The word I used to describe how they got the ball to Mims last year was intentionality, as in that's when it opened up for him, as when they started handing him the ball. Like when you're getting him the ball on the run, you're saying, okay, like this is your play. You're not waiting to get through progressions. It's in the passing game. It's like, it's your ball from the jump. Here, that's it. Go to it. And it opened things up for him. And we didn't see that last week. And it was just, it didn't seem like the opportunities that he got played well enough into his skill set. So I'd like to see more. I think that was a disappointing thing last week, is how Mims was used. So why now this day home game wearing white? Well, no, they wore orange last week at home. So the whole thing for this game is Indianapolis wearing white at home just because they want to do a whiteout game. So you're just kind of going with the flow. Washington's going to wear white at home on Thanksgiving weekend when the Broncos go there. So the Broncos are going to have their choice of whether they want to wear throwback orange, regular orange, or alternate blue. That's their call, their pick of those 3. So, and I know I get passionate about it. The aesthetics it's the weird thing about the aesthetics. It matters to me. I think part of it also is, this is sort of my strange thing, but when I see old highlights, I like to be able to identify what year it was quickly, and the uniforms are a really good way to do that. And uniforms and who's in them. There was there was an old basketball clip I saw. It was a college basketball clip, and I was able to, and I didn't even see, I didn't know what year it was. It was like just a clip, and it was like a North Carolina Maryland game, and like I was able to just in about 5 seconds look at the uniforms and who was in it, I was able to very quickly say, oh, 1983. Because it was specifically Maryland was wearing yellow at home, and I think that it was like the only time in a stretch of many years that they wore yellow at home against North Carolina, and I remembered that. And so I'm like, okay, that had to be 83. And it just clicked. And I love being able to have stupid little recall like that based on something that is in the aesthetics. So that's the thing. I mean, I'm pretty good. You could probably show me a picture. You could show me a still photo of just about any Broncos game, and I could tell you probably almost exactly. There would be very few that I would miss. If you showed me a still photo, there would be very few that I would miss in terms of being able to tell you when it was taken. I mean, there are some like if it's like an ISO shot of a player and there's no one for the other team in the frame, it might be difficult. But like if you showed me a shot of a player against like the Chargers or something, like even a team that the Broncos play year after year, I could probably tell you like, okay, it was taken in this game and this year. I could tell from the uniforms. I could tell even from like the weather or whether it was a night game or a day game. Or that is the stupid skill that I'm really, really, really good at. I mean, everyone's got to have something going for them, right? This is the thing I've got going for me. Who do I have the best feeling about in the wide receiver room relative to becoming a number one? Long term, Pat Bryant. I think he's got like it. And Ignacio, I think you're naming the guy that he reminds me of. Who he reminds me of. Pat Bryant reminds me of Rod Smith. Like the way he talks about the craft of receiving, the diligence, the effort he puts into blocking in particular, he reminds me of Rod. And I do not say that in a cavalier manner. That is something, it hit me after just the times I've talked with him. I've interviewed him 3 times so far, and I get the same feeling. I get the same vibes. There's a purpose to him, a purpose to the way he communicates. There's a purpose to the way he goes about his job, and he is an impressive player. And I really hope they get him more involved on Sunday. And especially another reason I want to see them get him involved is because I know it's not, his hometown is Jacksonville, but he played at Illinois. So he's going to have, a lot of people who knew him and were around him in college that are going to be there. It's going to be a nice rooting section for Pat Bryant. There's also going to be a nice rooting section for Trent Sherfield because he's from Danville, Illinois, not too far down the road from Indianapolis. So you're going to have big-time rooting sections for Sherfield and Bryant there. So hopefully both of them have good games as well. Showing off for the locals that are there, going to be there supporting him as well. But yeah, Bryant's headed places. Give him time, and it's funny to mention them both because Sherfield's kind of become Pat Bryant's mentor in there as well. They're both high character guys coming in, and welcome, Lonnie. Yeah, we are. Pat. I describe Pat Bryant as a friend of the program, friend of just the Mace program, as it were. So, good guy. I think he's definitely one worth cheering for. I don't want to play favorites or anything like that, but I'm a big Pat Bryant fan. So. Anyway, Denver football after dark here on this. Now it is a Saturday morning in the Mile High City. Saturday morning, Sunday is going to be game day. Of course, this is the pregame show. There will not be a Saturday night into Sunday morning show. I will have a video for you from Indianapolis. I'll be finding a spot somewhere in Indianapolis to do my pregame show. It's not a pregame show, just a little pregame bit. You'll be able to see that here and on the Denver Sports Facebook channel and on my social media channels as well. And I'll have a written preview on Saturday heading into Sunday as well. So make sure you check that out as well. So, but yeah, that's Pat Bryant. RJ Harvey can't be returning kickoffs. He's our starting right back. Well, he's the second guy back there. So he was back there next to Marvin Mims Jr. And remember, the starting running back's J.K. Dobbins. Right now, RJ is the number 2. So it's not everything. Who's going to step up for Bo like the Patrick Valet type? Well, I mean, right now, I think Bryant. I'm saying like long term, I think Pat Bryant becomes a wide receiver 1. In the interim, I think he could become that chain mover. I think eventually that Pat Bryant has a huge role coming for him. I think I could see the vision, to use Sean Payton's word, the Michael Thomas vision. I think there is some truth to that, perhaps. So, give Jonah Ellis more snaps. Well, last week, you saw Ellis and Dondrea Tillman play quite a bit. And Benito and Cooper were both in the 60-some% range snap-wise. I think it was telling that on that big series, when the Broncos pushed the Titans out of field goal range, that the edges you saw out there were Jonah and Dondrea Tillman. That should tell you a lot. Jonah got a sack. Dondrea got the pressure on Cam Ward that led to the Zach Allen sack. He was the first guy in, and Zach Allen cleaned it up. And that's what happens sometimes. Sometimes it's not the guy who gets the pressure that gets the sack. You know, there'll be a play where someone else gets the pressure and Dondrea gets the sack later on. Hopefully it'll balance out in the end. But that should tell you just how much they trust Tillman and Jonah. That high leverage situations, they're going to throw them out there and take advantage of those fresh legs. It's very much like 10 years ago with Shane Ray and Shaq Barrett. That those two are good enough, strong enough, and doggone it, people like them. Sorry. Couldn't help it. That they're good enough, strong enough, talented enough to where, hey, Nick and Coop, you guys can rest and get those legs fresh this series. Jonah and Dondrea have got this. It's a very nice luxury to have. If you're making long-term team building plans as well, I mean, Cooper's in the first year now of a 4-year contract, but the way that contract's structured, it's effectively a 3-year contract. So, I mean, you can sort of see the long-term building happening down the line to where maybe Cooper passes the baton to Jonah at some point in a few years. I mean, you can't keep everybody. It's sort of the reality of things. To everything, there is a season, as the old song goes. And, yeah. So it's a pretty good problem to have. Too many edges. We're going to see consecutive carries for running backs on Sunday. Let's see. Well, I'm going to go back to, I had a file here open with this here. Going to go back to my first, let's see. We did not see We didn't see consecutive called runs until during the second quarter. It was about it was just before and one of them was a QB sneak. Not long, it was just before the fumble. Just before the fumble that Bo Nix had there. That was when we saw the first consecutive called runs of the game. By the way, I wanted to touch on something here because I got asked this. I was asked about the play clock and it ticking down and whether the Broncos were, taking more time for runs, for passes, runs, whatever. So I went back. When they had designed runs, they snapped, and this is taking out first plays coming out of stoppages, timeouts, changes of possessions, 2-minute warnings, etc. When they had designed runs, they snapped the ball with 9.2 seconds on the play clock. When they had designed passes, they snapped the ball with 7.1 seconds on the play clock. But here was the thing: the range when they had designed runs was 2 to 24 seconds left on the play clock. From designed passes, it was 1 to 26 seconds. So there really was not a tendency as far as pass run when they snapped it on the play clock. I went through every snap, and so there was not a tendency there as far as, when they snapped it, they snapped it at this point, they were going to run. They snapped it at this point, they were going to throw, basing it on every snap. So it may have looked that way, but going through every snap, it did not, there was not a tendency there as I saw on, and I have it here on my Excel file. So anyway, I wanted to dive into that and appreciate being brought up, but couldn't find that from last week's film. Derek, thank you very much. Appreciate the kind contribution. I'm kind of interested to see if Sternad can continue playing at a high level. I am too. And my hypothesis on this is playing alongside Singleton and playing with Hufanga backing him up better. And I have the thumb out. I was thinking about the thumb because Alex Singleton has another fracture on the thumb, so he's going to play the game with a cast on it. He's okay, fine. It probably really only affects him if he has to make a play on the ball. Tries to make an interception, might make that a little bit harder. But having Singleton there, a little stronger against the run than Cody Barton was, having Hufanga behind him, healthy. We know PJ Locke last year was playing injured. Just offers Sternad a chance to not have to make up for as much. He can kind of play with himself, play his own game. I think that's a reason why you see Sternad playing better. It was his best game since his first game as a starter last year. I think part of the reason why is the Jets didn't really have him scouted very well. Once there was a book on Sternad, teams kind of adapted to him. And yes, he did really break his thumb, Michael. He did really fracture his thumb. It's real news. It really happened. Mario commenting on the split of the running back carries. It would be, I don't think they'll both be at 1,000, but it ended up being a pretty solid split when all was said and done last week. Now, I was the one that brought the attention. I'll stick by it. The longer to play, yeah. I'm sorry, Michael. I know you brought it to my attention, but there was nothing like, the data did not back it up. It just it did not. I'd like to say that it confirmed it, but it did. But the data, the only thing is, it was a little bit, like I said, it was 7.1 seconds for pass plays, and it was 9.2 seconds for run plays. So Actually, I think I got it backward. I'm sorry. So 9.2 seconds for run plays left on the clock, 7.1 seconds for pass plays. I'm reading it right here. So that's just, I checked every play, and we're not counting the plays that are coming out of stoppages. We're counting the plays just in the normal flow of it. 9.2 seconds for runs and design runs, 7.1 seconds for passes. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, I've got it all. I mean, can I show it? Let me see if I can see it here. Like, let's see if I can find it here. Like, I wonder if I can show, share this. Let me hang on here. Oh, I can't. Oh, won't let me do it because I gotta do the system settings, and I can't mess that. I can't do that. So I'm sorry about that. But yeah, went through everything. So I'll go through like the first possession. So it was the pass play. It was 11 seconds for a pass, then 7 seconds, then 5 seconds for a run, 1 second pass, 19 seconds pass, 6 seconds pass. This is when the snap was 8 seconds pass, 7 seconds pass, and then 4 seconds for a pass. And then started the next possession with a run. It was snapped at 10, 2 for a pass, 2 for a pass, then 10 for a pass, 4 per pass, 11 pass, and then snapped for a run at 27. And then you had a penalty. It was snapped at 13. And then interception, it was snapped at 11. Next possession, pass play was snapped at 5. Run play snapped at 4. Pass play snapped at 3. Pass play snapped at 9. Run play snapped at 10. QB sneak test snapped at 20 out of no huddle. Run play snapped at 5. Pass play snapped at 5. See what I mean? It's like I didn't see a pattern, there. So I would have loved to have said you were right. I was actually hoping that because I was hoping you'd be right, because I was going to write a story about it. I went back and I was going through, I'm like, boy, oh boy, this would have been something to put out there and be like, man, I got something here. It was kind of like when after the Chiefs game last year, after the blocked field goal at the end, and I quickly went back and I watched all the kicks for the previous few weeks, and I saw that several times that that Forsyth had been knocked at, the pressure had come at the same spot every time, that you'd seen teams had targeted that spot over and over again, and then the Chiefs did it again. The pressure actually got to them there. So sort of like, I was like, okay, I thought I had something, that's why I sort of wanted you to be right, Michael, because I thought it was going to be something I was going to give, so anyway, it wasn't there. So we'll see. But I'm going to time it on Sunday again. I'm now that you've mentioned it, I'm going to do it again to see what happens. So anyway, Denver football after dark. This is what I do. Hey, take time to explore some hypotheses from our viewers out here. This is fun. This is what I mean. Did I consider the kneel downs? I don't count. Kneel downs don't count. And there was only like one kneel down at the end of the game. So kneel downs don't count. I always, when I take into account stats, like for rushing, I always eliminate kneel downs. If that's something, it takes a little extra step, but kneel down should always be eliminated in any statistical consideration. So, anyway, but let's keep working on this, Michael. We're gonna find something together. We're gonna unlock something this year. So Zach pointing out rookie punter did amazing. Oh, yep. Jeremy Crawshaw, great game. Needs to keep it up in week 2. So, Ashton, so nice to have someone not doing the hype thing. So more palatable in so many shows. Yeah. It's hard to do hype. Hype would get me a lot more clicks. But viewer discretion is advised. Media critic, erudite. Yes, you bring that up because you also, I know that you say that about the great Sandy Clough as well. So, Mario. The substitutions. Yes, the substitutions. Let me take a sip here real quick. Okay. I understand Sean likes all these substitutions, but has he or anyone asked to let his primary series starters run a series of plays without subs like how Payton ran in Indy? Well, no huddle, hurry up. That's when he'll do it. The thing that he has always preferred is to force the issue on a defense to get them guessing and get them to change what they're doing matchup-wise to what he's adjusting. So in other words, he makes those changes, and they've got to adjust their coverages, their assignments to what he's throwing in. He's trying to make them think, and thus when they think, they hesitate. And when they hesitate, he feels like he's got the advantage because his guys, and it's a whole thing of when defenders hesitate, the offense has the advantage because they know where they're going and the defense is reacting where the offense goes. So it's why in a snow game, unless it's a windy day, if it's a snow game without wind, offense always has a huge advantage because the footing goes to pot and offense knows where they're trying to go and the defense is reacting to it. So that's a huge part of Sean Payton's substitution thing that he believes in, as far as he's trying to get the defense to kind of analyze a little bit more and put more on their plate to consider pre-snap in terms of assignments. So he will go with minimal to no subs when he hurries up, but I think you can still expect plenty of subs. And I don't think that's something that's going to change. So anyway, long play calls are so unnecessary. Okay, here's the thing with long play calls. And it's also a thing in West Coast nomenclature as well. In a long play call, what happens is each part of the play call has the assignment for a player or a group of players within that. So like if you'll have a play call, like say several words, one word will belong to a tight end, one word will belong to offensive line, one word will belong to a running back, etc. Each player is listening for the word, their assignment. Okay, then they know their assignment. So all the other players have to know they're listening for the assignment, and they know their assignment. They go out and execute it. The quarterback then has to know all of it, but then everyone else has to know one thing. And then it's just, okay, I know one thing. I go and do my job within the context of that play. But then it puts obviously a lot more on the quarterback's plate to be able to spit it out. Whereas in another offense, the one that comes out of the Earhart-Perkins offense, which goes back to the Patriots of the 70s, Ron Earhart and Ray Perkins put together. A lot of those play calls are three words. And those play calls are simpler. Now, that involves more players learning kind of all three words rather than each player kind of listening for one word. So it's just it's a different philosophy. Now, the other thing is also because you have all these things, you have so many more possibilities within a play. Like, because you have a long play call and everyone's listening for the one thing, you have myriad possibilities. So literally you could basically never run the same thing twice because you can just adjust like one thing here or there. And thus you become very hard to defend because you may never go to that specific play again because you may change up one thing, one route. You turn one route into something different, and then all of a sudden you have changed that in terms of what an opponent is looking for. And that's the genius of this style of play calling, So Ray Perkins, blast from the past. Yeah, I witnessed 4 years of Ray Perkins head coaching in Tampa. Didn't have a terribly talented team. A disciplinarian down there. Undone by cheap ownership. Did not get the support from up top that he should have. Ray Perkins also the guy that brought Bill Parcells to the New York Giants, because Perkins was the head coach of the Giants and brought Parcells to the Giants in 1980. Actually, got him in there as an assistant and then defensive coordinator, and then Perkins went to go replace Bear Bryant at Alabama, and then Parcells became the Giants head coach, and can kind of take a direct line to Sean Payton eventually becoming the Broncos coach. So anyway, so Denver football after dark after that little treatise on offensive philosophy and play calling and nomenclature. I need to use the word nomenclature because that's something I sometimes get into. I learned I learned a little bit about specifically like Shanahan West Coast nomenclature back when he was coaching the Broncos, and I thought to myself, I don't know how these guys learn this. Like, it's hard. Like, getting those play calls spit out, it's hard. It is hard what you have to learn. And man, it is not the easiest thing in the world. That's to say the least. I can see why some guys never get it. And it's part of why quarterback is so hard in this league. Because you don't just have to be a great passer, an accurate passer. You don't just have to be a leader. You have to be outgoing. You have to have the personality. And you have to be able to spit out an incredibly complex play call quickly in the huddle. It's incredible, man. So, so much. Favorite all-time Buccaneer. Ooh. Well, I have to say, because I got to cover him with the Broncos, I got to say John Lynch is like right up there for me. I enjoyed covering him tremendously. But, yeah, the late Leroy Selman, who I had a chance to meet a few times, is near and dear to my heart. It's really, really sad. It was really sad when he passed away about a decade and a half ago, and also not only a great Buccaneer, but also a very important person in the athletic history of the University of South Florida. And that's, part of the reason why he is the biggest figure in football in Tampa Bay, because not only was he the first great Buccaneer and the first great Hall of Famer, but he was central to launching the football program at the University of South Florida in terms of working for the university, helping raise the money in the Tampa community, the seed money that got the football program off the ground, and then eventually becoming the school's athletic director. So it's hard to think of people in a city who had a more profound impact on football, like the entire football community, not just a pro team, than Leroy Selman did on Tampa Bay football as a whole, not just the NFL team. And I bring that up also because the USF has a particularly big game on Saturday against the University of Miami. My niece is going to be down there in the USF band, so go Bulls. Sorry if you're a Miami fan. I'm not rooting for the Hurricanes in this game. So anyway, Leroy is special, and I can say from meeting him a few times over the years, an even better person than player, and he's very, very much missed. I'd say the way a lot of you think of like John Elway and what he means to you as Bronco fans is what Leroy means to me. So that's what he is for me. So anyway, that's actually a good place for me to close this out because it gets me a little sentimental. It also gets me thinking about that big game that I'm gonna be watching on Saturday afternoon, and hoping for the best for my Bulls. So hope you have a great Saturday, whatever football games you're going to be watching around the country, and getting ready for your Broncos football on Sunday. And I'll be checking in with you from Indianapolis and breaking down more to come on what to expect from Broncos-Colts on Sunday. A big game. It's rare to say it early in the season, but when you have two teams meeting this early and they played such an impactful game late last year, you can call it a big game. So I'm calling this a big game, just like I'm going to call the game in LA next week a big game. This is the next 4 weeks here. Colts, Chargers, Bengals, Eagles. We're going to learn an awful lot about the Broncos here in these 4 games. We're going to learn just how ready this team is. Are they true contenders, or do they have some distance yet to go before we can talk about them being that type of Super Bowl worthy team that Sean Payton is billing them to be? We're going to know a lot more over the next 4 weeks. So appreciate you joining me here on this edition of Denver Football After Dark. If you enjoy this kind of Broncos chat, tell your friends about this channel. Like, comment, share, subscribe. And I'll have a brief little stand-up from Indianapolis on Saturday previewing the game. And then, of course, I will have all my coverage as usual at denversports.com and on my social channels on Sunday. And then I'll have my wrap-up, of course, from Lucas Oil Stadium on Sunday night, and the usual coverage that you have come to expect from me and denversports.com over the years. So appreciate you joining me here for this episode, and thanks as always for riding with me. You make this possible for me to do this and have been in this business for so long. So I'm grateful to all of you for riding with me, and until next time, take care. Thanks for watching, and enjoy your football weekend wherever you are. Take care.